Hello and welcome back to Alice Talks Football and welcome back to a live Manchester United news, transfer news and update news show where we talk about all the latest Manchester United news and rumours going around. Reports coming out that Min Jae has basically said he's going to the Premier League. He will go to the Premier League and has agreed to go to the Premier League, and it is a race between Newcastle and Manchester United for Min Jae. Both ready to pay the money, but Newcastle might act quicker than United, considering United are in the midst of a takeover. Could we lose out on Min Jae to Newcastle, or will he wait for United, who apparently he's a big fan of the project? Harry Kane reportedly might not be attainable this summer, with Daniel Levy apparently refusing to sell him to United, and he'd rather kill him than sell him to United, which means that United might turn their attention to make Goncalo Ramos their number one priority striker, who United have been monitoring for a while. And Fabrizio Romano has also said that, we've had a strong interest in Goncalo Ramos. Let me just take some water. Among potential news of a David De Gea departure, contract not sorted, negotiations are being held up. Potentially De Gea could go, with Manchester United being linked with a midst of goalkeepers. Now, I'm going to always say this on the goalkeeper situation. De Gea will either be our goalkeeper next season and then leave the season after, or we'll get a new goalkeeper in the summer. I think Ten Hag's number one priority is striker, then midfielder, then centre-back. If the budget is there, after we get the striker, midfielder and centre-back, I think we sign a keeper. But if the budget isn't there, I think we keep it De Gea next season. And we'll talk about, obviously, United looking at Diogo Costa. Sporting want to sell Diogo Costa. Could De Gea's future be up? We've got a Fulham game tomorrow. This could be Maguire's last game for United. This could be McTominay's last game for United. This could be a couple people's last games for United. Don't think it'll be De Gea's last game for United because, obviously, the FA Cup final. But we will talk about that. And then I actually want to talk about what Ten Hag said in his interview. Ten Hag did an interview today about United, where they're at, joining United, Rashford's contract, Rashford. And I really liked the comments Ten Hag made in his interview, because you can just see that Ten Hag's got a top mentality. And then after I cover all the news, the interview quotes, the discussion stuff, we'll do general football chit-chat. Obviously, I know the playoff game's going on, Coventry, Luton. I was hoping it would be Middlesbrough and Sunderland, though. We'll talk a little bit about that, but I'm going to do a keep, bench, sell, loan Manchester United tier list as well at the end of today's video, so make sure you stay tuned for that. I think that will be interesting. What about the takeover? I'm going to be honest, everything that's coming out on the takeover is fake news and repetitive news. Now, to be fair, we get a lot of fake news on the takeover, but when there's news that comes from actual journalists who have an actual source, where they've just been told fake news from an actual source because the Glazers are deliberately putting news out, and then there's accounts on Twitter that aren't even journalists that will be called like Qatari Zone and like 5 Qatar flags, and they'll tweet, "Oh, Sheikh Yassim's agreed to deal with United." The amount of fake news I've seen on this takeover is absolutely unreal. So many accounts, and they'll be like these fake ITK accounts, so-called journalists. I don't even know what that guy's called. Like Ross Harwood, like the people like him that aren't real, and they'll say, "Yeah, Qatar have agreed to deal with United, and Qatar and Man United's a done deal, and Sheikh Yassim's a done deal." I've seen so many. It's not a done deal. I'm going to make this so you guys know. If Ornstein says it's a done deal, if Romano says it's a done deal, if Mike Keegan says it's a done deal, it's a Duncan Castles, if an actual genuine credified journalist that we know is a tier 1 or upper tier 2 source says it's a done deal, I will do a video and say, look, this person said it's a done deal, it's likely a done deal. But everyone saying this takeover is a done deal aren't credible sources. We know that there's talks ongoing. We know that something's going to happen soon, and we know that both parties have been told to prepare for the transfer window, and Sheikh Yassim and Sergio Ratcliffe are making preparation for the transfer window in case that happens. As I said in my video earlier, Sheikh Yassim's put a 10-man transfer shortlist together reportedly in case. But nothing's been done yet, but something could be done soon. I think we will hear news I think this time next week we'll know. I said that last week, but I do think this time next week we will know. What I will say with the takeover is news will come out. We're going to find out soon. The Champions League is secure. The parties are making plans. I think the Glazers will go, but I don't know if they're going to go. I don't know if it's going to be Sergio. I don't know if it's going to be Qatar. If we get takeover news, I'll make a video on it. I'll update you guys on it. But a lot of it is just speculation. A lot of the news is repetitive stuff. And there's a lot of fake news, which is annoying. So obviously I talk about the news on my channel with the takeover, but obviously I always show you a picture of the tweet when I talk about the news to show that this has come from a genuine source. And and the genuine sources aren't very reliable. So actual non-genuine sources, you've got to ignore it, because there is so much fake news on the takeover at the moment. And when it comes out from a genuine source, we cover it. It might not be true, but I'm talking not genuine sources are saying a lot on the takeover, and it's a little bit frustrating in that sense as well. Forget Kane, we can't be doing with a hassle time, move on, says Carl. There's a feeling that Kane could be the Frankie de Jong saga of this summer, so I get that as well. And sorry to say, Sergio Ratcliffe has won the race, according to Middle East latest news. The problem is, one day we get told Sergio's winning the race, one day we get told Qatar's winning the race, and then the next day we get told the Glazers are going to stay. And as David Ornstein came out and said, you just don't know what to believe, you don't know who to believe, because we get told one thing one day and another thing the other day. You know, and David Ornstein hit the nail on the head as well. Dortmund, ex-Arsenal, yeah, oh my God. I'm a bit upset for Dortmund, but at the same time, it's in your hands. It's not like if it's in your hands and you bottle it on the final day, that is you. That is on you. You are the bottle job. So like, I had this sympathy for Dortmund, but at the same time, I'm looking at Dortmund and I'm going, well, how much sympathy do I have for you? Because you need the mentality. You're losing 2-0 at halftime to at home to a team with nothing to play for. They thought it was going to be too easy. They didn't have the mentality. And Dortmund are like Arsenal. They haven't got winners in that team. They haven't got a winning mentality in that team. And as much as I'd like Dortmund to win, and you know that is a farmers league, is boring. They don't have the mentality. And you know what? This is what United have got to show in the final. You know, this is what United have got to show in the final versus Man City. Man City know how to win. Man United, do we know how to win in that FA Cup final? Are we going to be the Dortmund that bottles it? Technically, we won't be bottling it because Man City are the favourites. But do you know what I'm worried about? The thing about the FA Cup final, and we'll talk about this more next week, is United either go into the FA Cup final and do a masterclass when we beat City 2-1, 2-0, or we lose 5-0. Like, I don't think it's going to be 1-0 City win. It's going to be 5-0 City or 2-1 United. That's how I feel about the takeover. And not takeover. That's how I feel about Man U City in the FA Cup final. And we'll just see which way it goes. Obviously, Ousmane Dembele is always linked to United. But Fabrizio Romano said, understand negotiations are ongoing to extend Ousmane Dembele's contract at Barca. Crucial step as there's a €50 million release clause into the current deal. Further talks take place soon, but Xavi considers Ousmane as key player, and Ousmane is very happy at Barca. So this might be the first summer in about 5 years that United haven't been linked to signing Ousmane Dembele, because we get linked to signing him every single summer, it feels like. But I'm going to crack on with the transfer news. I'm going to crack on with the news, and then we can do our keep bench sell. We've got 400 people watching. So as Diego says, please do hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Glazers out, people, as well. Glazers out in the chat as well. Just scrolling down, evening to everybody in the chat as well. But we need Kim Min Jae. I want Kim Min Jae. I hope we get Kim Min Jae. So this is what was said on Kim Min Jae. Kim Min Jae is practically a sure name in the Premier League next season. It's pretty much been said Kim Min Jae will join the Premier League next season from multiple sources. Now, we haven't really had multiple English sources on it with connections to Man United, so potentially United's name could be being used to get Newcastle to up and do a deal, potentially. But, you know, we know that United have genuine interest in Kim Min Jae. So Kim Min Jae to the Premier League seems to be like he will go to the Premier League. It's essentially what a few sources are saying. And it's saying that Manchester United and Newcastle are one of the clubs that he will go to. He said both Man United and Newcastle have said that they will pay what Napoli asked. The decision will be at the hands of Kim. At first, Newcastle have taken advantage. So Newcastle are trying to get Kim and Jae deal done. So are United. The decision is down to Kim. Will he want to go to Newcastle? Will he want to go to United? Some reports said he's had talks with United and he prefers United and he spoke to Ten Hag and he likes Ten Hag's project. But these sources were claiming a deal was almost done, and Romano said, no, a deal isn't done. United have got this takeover going on, and they haven't offered Kim and Jae a €9 million contract. So how reliable are these sources that are saying Kim and Jae is going to choose United if they're the same people saying we've offered them a €9 million contract? Could those stories be going out by Kim and Jae's agent to make sure Newcastle give them a better deal? And could United's name be getting used so Kim and Jae goes to Newcastle? Or is United's interest in Kim and Jae genuine? Now, I think United's interest in Kim and Jae is genuine. I think that United generally want Kim and Jae, but I think Newcastle will give United a tough decision for Kim and Jae because they might act more effectively because they run properly. We've got this takeover going on. I generally believe that United want Kim and Jae, but you never know with United. Every now and then we get used as a spin to make a move. Like Newcastle do a better move from Napoli, etc. But I don't think that's the case. I think United are in for Kim and Jae. I believe that we've had talks with Kim and Jae. Romano said we've had talks and spoken to Kim and Jae. We've been scouting them for a while. Romano said that Ten Hag's been interested in Kim and Jae since November. And I think that United can beat Newcastle to Kim and Jae because we will be in the Champions League. But it's a question of, you know, if we don't beat Newcastle to Min Jae, it's probably because we're faffing around with this takeover and Min Jae just wants to get a deal agreed. Even though although you say that, you could also say, well, Alice, actually, he can only leave Napoli between the 1st and 15th of July. That's when his release clause is active. Potentially, you know, United's takeover will be sorted then, and it won't matter. It's between United and Newcastle. I think United have an advantage here, but we'll have to wait and see because, as I said, we don't know who our owners are going to be. We don't know how well we're going to be run. We don't know what we're going to be doing with transfers, but we obviously want Min Jae, and he's very much Premier League bound as well. I think Min Jae would suit Erik Ten Hag style football. Me too. I think he'd be a great signing, especially if he wants to go more versatile and almost like he plays with a 4-back, but maybe in game we switch it to a 3-back as well. We will talk about the midfield. Mason Mount is kind of the emerging target. Mason Mount is the advancing one. And look, but Mason Mount to United is very much ongoing. Mount wants to move, United want to move, and Mason Mount to United will happen. Or Mason Mount's agent is spinning these stories to get him a good new deal at Chelsea. You know, the problem is we've got all this takeover, all this transfer news linked to us and from credible sources, but you don't know if United's name is being used as a PR spin, if United's name is being used as a negotiation tactic. The problem with United is we are that big club and people use our name to get what they want. And that's the most frustrating thing about the media. But in terms of midfield, United seem to be looking at Mason Mount. I said today and I tweeted today, United should really look at South America, them hidden gems, a young DM, a Casemiro understudy, but not only a Casemiro understudy, just generally like good midfielders out there. You know, we've missed out on Enzo Fernandez, we've missed out on Moises Caicedo. United should really look at defensive-minded, solid midfielders across as well. So that is the Min Jae news, kind of that he'll come to the Premier League, but it's between United and Newcastle. Regarding Goncalo Ramos, United have been looking and scouting Goncalo Ramos. For British Romano has confirmed this. It was, and I want to get into Luckhurst's story because this kind of links to the Goncalo Ramos story, and this is kind of where the Goncalo Ramos news has come from. But it was said by Samuel Luckhurst that Manchester United are operating under the assumption that Tottenham will not sell Harry Kane this summer. They have not ended their interest, but are actively pursuing other options, says Samuel Luckhurst. So it looks like United are looking at other options other than Kane, which is what came out yesterday. And reports coming out today saying United are monitoring Goncalo Ramos. If they do not get Kane, United's view Goncalo Ramos is the most attainable asset, who would be between 70 to 100 million pounds. United believe they can get it for closer to the 70 million pound mark. Now, Kane comes to United and he bangs 30 goals, and he's an unreal player. But Kane is short term. Long term, Goncalo Ramos is better. I think, unlike Evan Ferguson and Højlund, Goncalo Ramos is a little bit more developed. I think he's 22. Got World Cup experience. That I'm happy with Goncalo Ramos. My dream would be to sign both Kane and Goncalo Ramos. But that's not going to happen. And maybe it's possible we have rich owners. But I do think if United can't get Kane, I think Goncalo Ramos is a smart alternative. Victor Osimhen is obviously the dream, guys. But let's be realistic, 130 million, not sure what's going to happen. And also, this is the only thing that puts me off Victor Osimhen is he scores a lot of headers and he gets a lot of service from Napoli. Do we give our strikers that much service? I mean, we have given Martial service and Weghorst service and they'd miss sitters, which Osimhen wouldn't miss. But do we give our striker that much service is the question as well. Would someone like Kane, who we know can play with very little service, be better for United? That's the question as well. But I do think that Goncalo Ramos is a very good option to look at if Kane is not possible, just because of age. 70 million pounds could be one of the better deals. But the only question is he's not like Kane. He's not like Osimhen, where he comes in now and he's just like boom, 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 unbelievable. But definitely one that you actually look at. Kane is 30, not a long-term solution. And I think that's the downside with Kane. Kane is fantastic, and Kane's got 28 goals this season, have been unreal. But he's not a long-term solution. And United, if they sign Kane this summer, would have to get an Evan Ferguson, Højlund type sign next summer. Man City have got Haaland and Julian Alvarez, both very young, two young strikers. If you've got an old striker, you need a young striker. And we ain't got any strikers at the club other than Martial at the moment, who looks like he'll go. Try to ask, but if we do get Min Jae, how much would you take for him in pounds? I'm not entirely sure. Well, his release clause is 42 million pounds, which I think is an absolute steal as well. Newcastle and Min Jae, yeah. Let's sign Botman from Newcastle. I mean, Min Jae, Botman, back two is brilliant from Newcastle as well. And yeah, Newcastle showing strong interest in Min Jae as well. But Shaw and Botman, one of the best duos in the league. They want to get even better than Newcastle. And Min Jae has just won a league title. They want someone that's won a league title to go in, because Newcastle, they've got proper owners now. They're not like us. It's not like they've got top four and they're happy. They're waiting for their title and all that as well. That's what Newcastle will be doing. They're waiting for their title. Guys, do keep me updated on the playoff score and just let me know what is the stream quality like. I hope there's no lag or anything as well. But yeah, just make sure the stream quality is right, because I think I'm getting a little bit of lag on my end as well. Just pay 120 million for Austin Ham, 130 million. I don't think United will do it. But you know, I think the thing that was said, and I don't know if this is true, but what was said on Austin Ham was basically United are reluctant to go and spend 130 million pounds on a player that hasn't quite done it in the Premier League. With Kane, it's 90 million, but you know he's done it in the Premier League despite being older than Austin Ham. United use spending 130 million on one player who's never played in the Premier League as a risk. Now, you guys might disagree with that. I personally, think Austin Ham's worth it. I think he's an unreal player, but I do think, 100 million, I buy Austin Ham. 130 million, you're like, ooh, that's a bit pricey. And if he flops, he flops. But I don't think Austin Ham would flop. I actually think he's an unbelievable player as well. No goal, apparently. Goal ruled out for handball when the playoff is coming out as well. And news there, but stream quality good. But Bella Chap is an ideal deal. I would be looking at Lavia. If I was United and I'd be looking at any of the relegation players, it'd be Lavia. Tomorrow will be interesting in terms of the relegation battle. United game, I imagine, will be pretty boring tomorrow. But you know what's interesting? And I actually want to get into Ten Hag's interview here. I've just closed the tab with Ten Hag's interview quotes on, so I'm going to have to find that. But Ten Hag was asked if he was going to give Sedan Iqbal a chance. And Ten Hag made quite a weird comment about Sedan Iqbal, which it doesn't really sit right with me. But look, maybe there's been problems with Sedan Iqbal in the camp. I like Kobbie Mainoo. I think Kobbie Mainoo is an absolutely fantastic player. But I always thought that Sedan Iqbal was so good in pre-season. I was always shocked that it was Kobbie Mainoo coming on if a young midfielder came on, not Sedan Iqbal. And Erik Ten Hag was asked on whether he'll play younger players like Sedan Iqbal versus Fulham. He said, no, that will not be the case because they have to prove themselves and deserve their position. The attitude here is that they want to win games. Look, I love Ten Hag's attitude, his winning mentality, attitude, etc. And I guess you've got to be like that with the young players. But I feel like he was very good in pre-season. Unless he's not been good in training, unless he's not been good for the younger players. But Ten Hag not really willing to give Sedan Iqbal a chance, who obviously is now pushing for a loan move and wants to go out on loan. Potentially, I don't know if there was some issues there. Potentially, he's just like that with everyone at Ten Hag. But I said myself I'd like to see these Sedan Iqbal and Casemiro play in the pivot tomorrow. But Ten Hag doesn't see it like that, which is a shame. But we will talk a little bit more later about what I want to see for United versus Fulham in a bit as well. Pellistri needs to start as well. I will get into my ideal lineup for tomorrow and who I want to start as well. Will Levy let Kane go or play games like Levy plays games like he did with Bale? He's going to play games, especially because United's an English side as well. Ramos 90 million buyout, but United reckon they can get him for 70 million. Extra time almost up 1-1. Can Coventry and Luton get a last-minute winner here as well? Ramos is better, no weak foot and physical. A lot of people like Ramos. I mean, what do you guys think of Goncalo Ramos? I'd be a big fan if we signed Goncalo Ramos. He's not quite Harry Kane. He won't quite have that crazy impact Harry Kane could have. But I think Goncalo Ramos would be a top signing. Now, I want to actually get into what Ten Hag said in his interview today. Ten Hag was interviewed today, or yesterday, sorry, and it came out today. And Ten Hag said this about United and Rashford, etc. He said, I'm happy that finally a Manchester United player is able to score 30 goals again, but next year the numbers have to be higher. Rashford is first United player since Van Persie to score 30 goals. Ten Hag said, I'm happy to bring that back. I'm happy he scored 30 goals, but it needs to be higher next year. And I love that Ten Hag's got those very high standards. Ten Hag said, I expect Marcus Rashford to renew his contract. He wants it. Manchester United wants it. He's a child of the club, so I assume it will happen. When Ten Hag was asked about how De Gea's contract's going, he said he didn't speak on contract renewals, but he's spoken on Rashford's, which some people potentially take as a hint of, could that mean that, David De Gea is not in Ten Hag's plans. However, Ten Hag did say a couple of months ago that he does want De Gea to stay, and people did bring that up to me as well. Ten Hag was asked about Manchester City winning the treble. Is it going to stop this? Ten Hag said this in the interview on blocking Man City's treble dreams. Well, this is about winning the FA Cup. This is a huge in England. I want to give our fans a trophy. He says it's not about us stopping the treble, it's about us winning the FA Cup. And I think he's absolutely right. We need to not think about City. We need to think about ourselves. And the best thing that Ten Hag said today was about Lisandro Martinez. And he said, I'm expecting Lisandro Martinez back at the club in the coming days. He will be ready for the start of pre-season. And Ten Hag said, we went to beat Fulham at home. I want to see this team break the record of winning the most home games during the season in the club history. So Ten Hag was asked about rotating, playing some of the younger lads versus Fulham. He's saying, no, I want to break a record for the most home wins in the team's history. Now, for me, I would go for a strong but rotated squad. I will show the squad I will go with. I think, let's rest players. We don't want any more injuries. We want to win the game. We want to do enough to win the game, but we want to rest key players like Varane, make sure he's fit for the City game, rest Rashford for the City game, rest Bruno for the City game potentially. we need key players rested, but it seems that Ten Hag very much wants his third place as well. Very interested in that as well. It's going into penalties that I'll keep an eye on the penalties for you guys as well. Luton Coventry penalties, that's mad. Shame it wasn't Middlesbrough Sunderland. Who do you guys want them in? Coventry or Luton? Let me know below. The thing is, I get Luton's never been in the Prem, and there's look at Luton Stadium. It'd be fun if they're in the Prem, but Coventry are a real side. Like Coventry were once a big club, so I feel like naturally I just prefer the bigger teams. But then I like a good underdog story. But I kind of edging for Coventry to win, but honestly, I'm not bothered. I'm happy for either. But it's mad that one of them will be back in the Premier League when they were playing in League One just a few years ago, League Two just a few years ago as well, which is absolutely crazy. But I'm going to show you how I'd line up for tomorrow's game, because obviously this could be Maguire's last game in the United shirt. This could be McTominay's last game in the United shirt, etc. Obviously, David De Gea will play. Rest Wan-Bissaka. For me, Wan-Bissaka's got to play versus Manchester City. For me, Wan-Bissaka has to play, so we're resting him. I would go with Maguire, and I will go with Lindelof. I will go with Maguire and Lindelof. I guess you could argue that Lindelof needs a rest, but Lindelof, you got to play. I would still play Casemiro, to be honest. If he gets a red card, does that make him out of the FA Cup final, though? Imagine. Oh, my. I play Casemiro, McTominay, and the reason I wouldn't play Fred is because I want Fred to play versus City. Or would I play Would I play Fred? He's not played a lot, so it's not like I think I could play Fred, because it's not like we really need to rest Fred. I would like to see Bruno rested, but I don't think that's going to happen, to be honest. And I don't know who we can rest Bruno for without playing Sancho. So although Bruno looks knackered, I think it's going to have to be potentially you could do Eriksen, but I think it's going to have to be something like this, Bruno. But I would be playing Pellistri here. I would be starting Pellistri. I'd be starting Garnacho. And I'd be starting Bout. And I'd be resting Martial, Sancho, Rashford, making sure they don't get any injuries. I don't want injuries. I don't want injuries. The midfield is the only bit that isn't heavily rotated. But I think I would probably play something like that tomorrow, if I'm being honest with you as well. Because I don't want injuries, but I want the sort of strongest team. Casemiro has to play. Got to get back to match play and fitness. I agree as well. And 116 likes. So let's go for 200 likes. If you hate the Glazers, guys, do smash that like button. It will be appreciated as well. What I want to do actually, guys, is I actually want to do a tier list, and I want to do one of those keep, bench, sell tier lists with you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop screen, and I'm going to share another screen with you. And I know I look really rough today. I had a bit of a nap just before my live stream, because when you're in the sun and you're just like tired, I can't explain it. But at least we got some sun. But we're going to do one of those start, bench, loan, sell with the United squads. Like, where do we see the United players? Do we see them starting? Do we see them on the bench? Should we sell them? I'd start Kobbie Mainoo. I'd like to give Kobbie Mainoo an opportunity. I'd definitely like to see him on the bench. I think it'd be nice to start him, really. It would be nice to have something different on the starts as well. Any news on the takeover, because it was meant to happen yesterday? No, but I think Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday it will be heavy. I think tomorrow it'll be quiet. I think if news comes out tomorrow, it'll be in the evening. I think it's going to be a quiet weekend, and I think Tuesday things are going to hit the fan. I start Amad Diallo. He technically won't be a United player. So David De Gea, start, bench, sell. Now the thing is, part of me would start De Gea, because if I would prioritise signing a striker and midfielder before a new goalkeeper. If De Gea wants to be our number one goalkeeper next season, I haven't got a big problem with it. But I think long term we will have to change the keeper, because the way Ten Hag wants to play, De Gea doesn't have the capabilities. But if I'm being ambitious, if I'm thinking Qatari owners a lot of money, I would put De Gea as our bench player, and I would sign a new goalkeeper. But I'm not one of those people that's desperate to get De Gea out. I don't mind De Gea. I think people do overreact to make out he's a lot worse than he is. I think he's a solid player, does a solid job. But I think the way that Ten Hag wants to go, I think you're best off really putting him on the bench and getting that goalkeeper that's good with their feet. Rashford, I've obviously start. Greenwood, just don't want to deal with that, so I'd sell. Malacia is a bench player, but a very good bench option for me. I think Malacia is a reliable bench option. Eriksen next season's a bench player for me. I like Eriksen. I think he's a good player, but he's someone you want on your bench. We did miss him when he was injured, but Eriksen and Bruno, if we're not dominating possession, we can struggle. Eriksen's a good player, but he can only play once a week. He's not got that energy. I think Eriksen is a solid bench option for me, and that's why I see Eriksen as well. A lot of people saying Palestri and Garnacho have to play. I agree. Maino was injured recently as well, yeah. Come from Coventry, family war between United, Forest and Coventry. And Kobe for the start. I mean, is Kobe Maino even fit? I'm not sure. Some people saying sell De Gea. I mean, let me know what you do. Let me know what you do with Eriksen, but I personally view Eriksen as a bench player. I view Fred as a bench player, and obviously Casemiro as a starter. Varane as a starter. You could argue Varane bench player for next season if we sign Min Jae, but I think, Varane's, for me, I'm more than happy for him to start. Lindelof's a very good bench option there as well. A lot of bench players here. Is Dalot a starter or a bench option? That's the question. Because I don't think signing a right back is a number one priority, but I think we can do better than Dalot and Wan-Bissaka. I think Dalot, I'm going to put. I think Wan-Bissaka is a better bench option than Dalot, but I would play Wan-Bissaka over Dalot right now. But long term, Dalot is more suited to Ten Hag, and Dalot's more suited to Ten Hag long term. Dalot is younger. Long term, Dalot could be the starter, especially if he finds that form at the start of the season. So I'd probably put Dalot starting and Wan-Bissaka bench player. And the reason I'm saying that is because if I had to sell one of Wan-Bissaka and Dalot and bring in a brand new fullback, I'd probably sell Dalot because I think Wan-Bissaka is that perfect alternative backup fullback. And the reason I'm saying Wan-Bissaka is the perfect bench option at fullback is because when you've got a big game with a tricky winger, you can play him. He might not be the guy you want to play every week, Wan-Bissaka, because he lacks the capabilities going forward, but I think he is the perfect bench option. I know a lot of Man City fans that went, I'd take Wan-Bissaka as our backup option, and that's why I'm going to put Dalot start and Wan-Bissaka bench player. However, I actually right now, if we were going into the Man City game, would start Wan-Bissaka over Dalot. I would start Wan-Bissaka over Dalot. I think realistically, they're both bench players. Yasha Dalot has to improve his defending. It's a big weakness, and I agree. Daniel said I would keep Dalot. To be honest, I think he could make good rotation. That's just my opinion. Yeah, and I agree as well. We'll put Dalot and bench player as well because I think they're both really bench players, and potentially that's what we need to be improved. Anthony, would I start Anthony? That's the question. I think United are a better side than that when Anthony plays. I think he stretches the width. We look better. I think Anthony is a starter for me. I think we don't need to sign the right winger. But just like De Gea, just like I said, I'd happily start De Gea, and just like I'd happily start Anthony. In the long term, we need better than De Gea and Anthony. Anthony might step up, and I believe that Anthony can be that 80 million guy and be a starter for United, but he's not quite proved it this season. I think Anthony's like De Gea, where I have no issue if they start next season at all. They can be a regular starter next season, but we need more from them. I will put Anthony in start because I think he's going to have a really good second season as well. Tom Eaton can just stay on the bench, don't really care. Luke Shaw start. I mean, Luke Shaw is absolute quality. I think he's the best left back in the world. I've always said that about Luke Shaw. Maybe I'm biased, but I love Luke Shaw. Amma can play right wing next season, yeah. Anthony is out until next season, yeah. It's a shame that Anthony's got the injury there. 1-1 on penalties at the moment. Sancho, I think, is a bench player, but could prove himself to be a regular starter. I mean, some people will say you can't have Sancho as bench player and Anthony as bench player. One of them will start between Sancho and Anthony. I'm just going to pick Anthony because he's had probably a little bit of a better season. But if Sancho finds his Dortmund form, Sancho starts over Anthony. If Sancho played like he did against Chelsea on the right wing every week, Sancho starts over Anthony. But we've not seen enough from Sancho for him to be like, yeah, he's starting week in, week out. We've been saying just last week, Garnacho seems to offer more than Sancho. So, I think for me, as much as I like Sancho and we saw capabilities of what he could do the other day, Sancho is a bench player for me. Ahmad has exceptional link-up player for the future. Look, Ahmad definitely would be a bench player coming in and potentially being a starter next season. Not risking Casemiro tomorrow, thank you. Imagine if Casemiro gets like a red card, I'd be fuming as well. Chelsea weak, Sancho's bang average. You can look at it and just go, look, have you seen Chelsea? Have you seen the Chelsea side? They're not particularly good. Was Sancho that good or was Chelsea bad? You can say it like that, but I like to give Sancho credit where credit is due. It doesn't matter who you're playing against. If he's had a good game, he's had a good game, and I'm not going to knock Sancho for that when his confidence is particularly low. I'm just going to go, you know what? At the end of the day, Sancho had a good game, so big up Sancho. That's how I kind of view it as well. For Gunnar Palestri, I would definitely loan. I love Palestri, but I 100%. would be loading for Kundo Palestri. I think he's got a lot of future. Dubravka's obviously already gone. Brandon Williams, I would sell, see if we can get 5 million for him. Injury record. I think Brandon Williams will have a career in the Premier League, but I don't see him having a career for a top 4, top 6 Premier League side. I think Brandon Williams is someone that actually could be capable of playing for a team like, well, I would say Southampton, but they're going down. But one of those teams, potentially, I think Brandon Williams got future. Donny, part of me wants to keep Donny in bench player because I feel like Donny's not got the minutes he deserves. Ten Hag's here, etc. But I'm going to put Donny in sell. And I don't like putting Donny van der Beek in sell. But the reason I'm putting Donny van der Beek in sell is because we need to sell to buy players. And for me, if selling Donny means we go out there and we go to South America and we buy Casemiro understudy with the 15 million we get for Donny van der Beek, I think it's worth it. So unfortunately, I will put Donny as sell. I'm going to put Elanga in loan. Now, a lot of people would say they would sell Elanga. A lot of people I know would sell Elanga. Personally, in my opinion, Elanga goes in loan. And the reason I think Elanga goes in loan is because he was a really promising academy talent. Ragnick's picked him out. He might be one of those guys where actually in 2-3 years' time, and he might not be, we might see a really good squad player in Elanga, and he might has the potential to still be a United level player. He's not Garnacho, he's not Amad Diallo, he's not got that flair. But there's definitely a player in Elanga, and I would give him a loan or two, and if it doesn't work, we sell him. But you could say, look, sell Elanga now, and I wouldn't have an issue if we sold Elanga. We sold James Garner, I thought was a decent player, and he's not really played much at Everton. Like, I wouldn't have a big issue if we sold Elanga at all. But I think I would give him a loan, just see what he's about on loan as well. Obviously, Tuanzebe's already gone. McTominay's going and sell. If we can get 30 million for McTominay, for me, that is a big sell as well. 170 mil penalty shootout and free on the score as well. So the penalties are going mad for Luton Coventry as well. But yeah, Scott McTominay, if we can get 30 million for him, there we go. Sell Scott McTominay. Not good enough for United. Good bench player, good attitude. I think McTominay's a top professional. I think he does offer things. I think he always fights. I think he's got a captain's mentality, McTominay, 100%. I would say that. But I think when you look at McTominay, he's played 4 or 5 years at the club, not good enough to be a regular starter. He's had so many opportunities. There's a player in there. He can play for a Premier League side. Better for him to move. He'll get the minutes. Better for us to cash in on him. McTominay sell. Phil Jones obviously get out. Teden Mengi I'd loan. Shola Shiratiri I'd loan. Garnacho is a bench player for now with the potential to be a regular starter. I think Garnacho in the future will be a starter. Harry Maguire sell. 25 million for Harry Maguire. He goes straight in that sell pile. Maguire and McTominay, probably 2 players I'd sell above anyone else in terms of they've had a lot of chances at United. They've played a lot for United and they're not quite good enough. So, obviously you'd sell Harry Maguire. Leach is obviously a regular starter for me. You can't dislike Leach. What a player. Ronaldo's back there for some reason because he's probably made the start of the season. Bruno Fernandes obviously start as well. I see a lot of people saying, I wouldn't start Bruno for United. Like, United won't be, a top team if Bruno starts and all of this. And look, yes, Bruno gives the ball away, but he's an absolutely quality player. Yes, he has a few bad games, and yes, when he's bad, he can be horrendous. But Bruno's a start for me next season. It's Bruno and Casemiro starts for me. It's Eriksen that we need to replace in that midfield. But I'd like to see Bruno play a bit more in that deeper role. Martial. What would you do with Martial, people? 5-5. The penalty shootout is dragging. It's going on as well. Alice, do you trust Erik Ten Hag with youngsters? I do. I think if the youngsters prove themselves, they'll get a chance. I think if the youngsters take their chance, they'll get another chance. I think Palestri probably could have got a bit more minutes this season, in my personal opinion. But that is up to Erik Ten Hag as well. Garnacho and Amad of the future. I agree. Anthony Martial, this is the thing. I'd like to sell Martial and bring in 2 strikers like a Højlund and a Kane or a Ramos and a Kane, but I don't think we will. So I might just keep Martial as a bench player next season and sell him the season after, just so we've got 2 options at striker because I prefer Rashford on the wing. Marcel Sabitzer, we don't technically sell him, but I wouldn't re-sign Sabitzer. Old, not done enough for me. Amad Diallo next season is definitely a bench player. Definitely a bench player, someone that I'm excited to see next season. What I'll do is I'll try and put the more obvious bench players at the front of this list. Just because You know, I think Heaton and Martial might be bench players but not play enough. Weghorst, I'm just going to put in sale, but obviously just not sign them, basically. Butland, I think I don't really care what happens with Butland, to be honest. Hannibal Mejbri, loan. Zidane Iqbal, that's a very obvious loan for me. Kobbie Mainoo, I mean, I think he could do one more season at United before a loan. Alvaro Fernandez had a good season at Preston, but I'd loan him again. I think that's what I'd do with the United squad. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them are starters, but I think it's very obvious United, if you look at the players missing from this. So United in here, you know, don't have a goalkeeper, so sign a top keeper. United don't have a striker, sign a top striker. United are missing another midfielder, sign a top midfielder. And we're missing a right back, sign a right back. And I'd potentially sign a centre back because Varane's aging. I think you look at this and you go, these are the starters. Now, I think, you know, Sancho and Antony is up for debate. It's who's better at the time. I think Ahmad could displace Antony. I think Garnacho's got opportunities to be a starter. But I think that's what I'd do with the United thing as well. Done with Martial, had many years to prove himself, just lazy and always injured. And look, I'd understand like Martial. Honestly, I understand why people would sell him as well. Sorry, Alice, nobody earning enough. 350k. De Gea on 350k is unreal. I just put De Gea on the bench. I don't mind if De Gea starts next season, but I think Ten Hag would like to. I think Ten Hag would like to get a keeper by the amount we're linked on. Luton have won, guys. Luton Town FC is going to be in the Premier League next season. That is mad. Luton Town FC in the Premier League. That is absolutely mad. Let's have a look at the Twitter. Let's see how people are reacting. Luton have done it. Luton are going to the Premier League. Oh my God. The penalties have been good. People haven't even, not many people talking about the news. Luton are Premier League. That is mad. Absolute madness. We are Premier League. 100 million plus penalties. Oh my God. Oh my God. Penalties decide who makes the Premier League. And this is Luton Stadium. Oh my God. Well, big up to Luton in the Premier League. They've got to be one of the smallest teams to make the Premier League, but it's always nice to see someone new in the Premier League. Luton Town people, like everyone's tweeting about it now. Yerry Mina will leave. This is the Premier League stadium now. It's got like this. Luton Town is now a Premier League stadium. Madness. Madness. So Luton are in the Premier League. Coventry player Dabo has missed. I tell you what, you have to feel sorry for the person that misses. You have to feel sorry for the person that misses. But Luton have gone from non-league to Premier League in 9 years. That's unreal. And you have to give it to them. Non-league to Premier League in 9 years. Like, you've got to give it to them. You know, you've got to give it to them. They were in the National League in 2013-14 when I was in like year 8, year 9. Like, the way they've gone up, League 2, League 2, League 2. Only one season in League 1, Championship. The way they've gone up so quick, you've got to give it to Luton there as well. Send the Glazers to Luton. Don't think they would last a second in Luton, Joe and Avram. Imagine. But fair play to Luton. We're heading the other way under the Glazers. Unfortunately, we are, but hopefully they won't be here much longer. And I do think we will get some takeover news in and some transfer news in soon. And I just think, I know I've been saying this for weeks because I feel like for weeks I'm thinking, well, surely it's got to come to an end. Surely it's got to come to an end. You know, it's gone on for so long. Surely we're going to find out something soon. Surely we're going to find out something soon. And we don't find out something because you know what the Glazers are like, just delaying the takeover, etc. But I'm at the point now where I'm positive that some news is going to come out soon on the takeover. We're going to get some kind of update soon because it's, as I said, it's just been going on and going on and going on. I do think the takeover will come to an end soon. Can we see Greenwood next season? Greenwood's told his friends that he's not coming back to United. Man United will sell Greenwood, I reckon. He'll probably come back for training, but I think they'll sell him. Away fans going to Luton FC will need to walk past someone's garden to enter their stadium, which is mad. Luton have to demolish one of the stands and rebuild it to PL standards before the new season begins. Yeah, I think they'll have to do a few things before the season begins. But it's absolute madness. I think it's always nice to see a new side in the Premier League. I think Coventry are the biggest side, but you know, when you see something new in the Premier League, it's mad. But Luton's sort of known for having probably one of the most unique stadiums in the Premier League, going through like people's gardens and stuff. I mean, imagine your house being right next to the stadium. People, jeez. I'm actually just looking at it now. But big up to Luton. But I feel sorry for the guy that's missed the penalty. Because Coventry are a big side as well. But Luton will probably play Arsenal first game of the season as well. But their growth is mad as well. I mean, Coventry have always been a big club, but Coventry have really improved lately as well. The penalties were quality. Give Newcastle McTominay for 35 million and Bruno Ramirez. You know what? If they wanted to do a Bruno Ramirez McTominay swap deal, I'd jump on that in a heartbeat. But Newcastle aren't that stupid as well. And Martial's not going to be a good bench player, so if we sign a striker, he needs to go. And I do agree with this. I think Martial, when he's not the main man, maybe there's like an ego complex there, but he is never as good as well. The last time Luton were in the top division, Leeds won the league. Well, hopefully Leeds will be getting relegated as well. Any positive news on the takeover? I mean, there's a lot of fake news saying Qatar's done, but I don't think that news is credible. The only positive news on the takeover is we're meant to find out this week, but will we find out this week? You know, we just don't know with all of this takeover stuff. We hear one thing one day, one thing another day as well. But listen, people, I'm going to wrap up today's live stream. There's not that much news really to get into. Just really the Min Jae stuff, what's going on with Min Jae and all of that. United and Newcastle for Min Jae, a little bit on us going for Goncalo Ramos. Ten Hag obviously wanted to sell players, but obviously big up to Luton going up. There's not crazy news today, in all honesty, but I will do a video tomorrow morning, potentially before the United Fulham game. If any news comes out tonight or tomorrow morning, there will be a video. But Man United Fulham tomorrow, not the most important and interesting game, but I will do a watch along, I guess. Final game of the season, might as well. And then obviously next week's the big one, FA Cup final. I'm really excited for the FA Cup final, but really, really nervous as well. Liverpool signed McAllister. I mean, have they signed him? I think they will sign him, but I don't know if they have signed him. Let's have a look if there's anything happened with McAllister. I don't know if they have signed him yet. It's close, but we'll have to see. No, nothing's officially done between Liverpool and McAllister, but I do think McAllister will go to Liverpool. It is reported he wants Champions League, so maybe there's a chance McAllister pushes to United, etc. as well. But yeah, absolutely mad. Anyway, people, please do smash the likes on the way out. Subscribe down below if you're new. Share the video. See you next time, and bye.